All right, what's going on, everybody? So this is going to be my first impressions for what is most likely the biggest game release of the year. So I've completed about 6 main missions, done a bunch of random encounters, and some side missions and everything like that. And I think I've played maybe about 6 7 hours. So this is really very an early impression because the game obviously gets bigger, more things get are become available to you the further you get into the game, and this is obviously a very large, very long game. So as far as the story goes, the first couple of hours serve as just the story building and the tutorial, which I don't mind because it's very fun and engaging, and learning about the original members of the Dutch Vanderlyn gang. It's exciting, especially for those who played Red Dead 1 and want to see how things came to be for that game. So I'm not that far in the game. So obviously I don't know the ultimate or main plot, but the basic premise for what the gang's intentions are and their current situation is very clear. The voice acting is honestly amazing, and it doesn't seem to suffer from like what I call video game script, in which the lines don't seem real or authentic. It seems like they were specifically made for video game talk. Sometimes we hear dialogues in games where we know nobody would say that and nobody would speak like that in real life. But so far, the script in the game is very believable, and I'm engaged so far. A few hours in, as far as the plot goes. So getting into the gameplay, and it's like this game is so massive. It's honestly hard to comprehensively talk about everything that you can do, especially in the first impressions. But one of the first things you learn in this game is there's a lot of character stats tracking and maintenance. You have to take care of yourself. You have to nurture and maintain yourself. You have to do it for your horse, yourself, your gun, and the people in the gang. You have to maintain all of these things, right? So like I said, there's just so much content. I mean, from the wildlife to the random encounters. When you're traveling, that you'll come across just random people, and you'll have to make decisions that affect you later. For example, this is not a spoiler. This is just a random encounter because I'm not exactly sure how the random encounters work. If I think some random encounters everybody will get, but I don't know if it'll be in the same way that everybody plays the game will get it. I don't know if it's like procedurally generated, or if everybody goes to this same spot, will they run into that same encounter. I'm not sure how it works, but for example, I ran into this guy who got bit by a snake. I offered him some a healing drink, and I ran into the guy when I went into this town, and he offered to buy me a free gun. So I was able to go into the gunsmith and pick out any gun I wanted, and I bought the Springfield sniper rifle, I think it was. Other things in the game, there's a huge inventory at the general store. I went in there, I stocked up. You can customize your character, his boots, his shirt, overalls, his coat, hat, all those things. There's barbershops, saloons, gunsmiths, hotels, entertainment shows, butchers and doctors and all this stuff. When you commit crimes, bounties are put on your head. And if you don't want the law to come after you, you got to pay those bounties, or you're gonna pretty much keep getting pursued, and it's gonna become harder and harder to beat those guys and evade them. I think if you put your mask on, or rather your bandana on your face, I think if you have that on while you commit crimes, then people might not be able to know it's you, something like that. If witnesses see you commit a crime, they'll try to go and snitch, and then you'll have to like kill those witnesses if you don't want them to snitch on you. So all these choices affect what happens to you. There's a ton of dialogue. You can pretty much walk up and talk to anybody. There's just a lot of activities to keep you busy and to keep you from actually progressing in the main story. But it doesn't feel like filler, right? Like, for example, with Spider-Man, a lot of the side content in that game, we felt like, okay, eventually it became kind of tedious and filler. I don't think it's going to be like that in this game. Like I said, I'm not that far, but I don't think it's going to get to feeling like that. You have a reputation, somewhat of a reputation system. I'm not exactly sure to the full extent the repercussions of how your reputation affects you. Of course, the Deadeye mechanic is back, and they've expanded on that. But I think the hand-to-hand combat is still kind of pretty. It's still kind of basic and dull, unless there's something I don't know about it. Right, as far as I understand, with hand-to-hand fighting, it's just punching and dodging. I don't know. I felt that I wanted it to be a little bit more complex than that, but it's very simplistic from what I understand. The the audio and the sound design, rich and authentic. That sounds great. But let's get to the main problem of the gameplay in Red Dead Redemption 2 and in many Rockstar games. And I don't like it when people try to skip over this fact about Rockstar games, or when they, speak about, Rockstar games, they don't call out a major flaw in the gameplay, right? If this was any other game made by any other developer, the game would be getting ripped apart for it. But I guess because it's a Rockstar game, people choose to ignore it. The movement in this game is ass. Ass, okay? There is no other way to describe it. It is ass. It is cumbersome, clunky, and stiff, like it was in GTA 5, like it was in GTA 4. And I think the only recent Rockstar game that was made that wasn't like this was Max Payne, right? I think that used a different engine. So I assume this is a issue, or it might not even be an issue to them. This might be intentional. And I know I see a lot of people defending it. Listen, regardless of why they do it, whether it's intentional or whether it's like a byproduct of something else in the game, it's terrible. If you really needed to make like any pinpoint accurate movement or aiming in this game, good fucking luck. Okay? It can be, you can do things to make it more tolerable, such as going in the options menu and adjusting the aim acceleration, the aim assist, and the sensitivity. You can do those things. And I use free aim because I refuse to use auto aim in Rockstar games, because to me, this is just me, if you use auto aim, you're not playing the game. The game is playing for you. You might as well just put down your controller. That's just my opinion. I refuse to use it. I think it's bullshit. And I think it's what it is. It's a compensation to cover up the fact that Rockstar acknowledges that the movement and the aiming in their game is ass. If this was a game where the aiming was just top notch, why would you need auto aim? You get what I'm saying? Why would you need that if the aiming was precise and it was like 1-to-1, if it was good? In any like in any or most third-person shooters, and you can also go in first person in this game, by the way. In whether first person or third person, most games have at least decent aiming mechanics where it feels fluid, it feels responsive. This game is exactly the opposite of that when it comes to movement and aiming. It's terrible. Like I said, regardless of you adjusting the dead zone or the sensitivity, it's just cumbersome, clunky, stiff. It's bad. And whether it's intentional or not, it's not conducive or productive for the gameplay. God forbid you're in a firefight, you got like 5 dudes shooting at you, and you need to make precise movements to get into cover. It's like, and you're in a small environment, a small tight environment. You're screwed because you can't make like tight adjustments and tight movements to move around in small spaces, even big spaces. It's terrible. Like I said, is it bad enough that you can't play the game and you can't finish the game? No, but it's bad enough that you're constantly aware of it and constantly cognizant of it. You always know the movement is bad and the way it feels is non-responsive. Okay? And this was my major concern going into this game. Right? Everybody was concerned about other things and yada yada yada. I was always as soon as this game was announced, I was wondering how is the movement gonna be, and unfortunately, it's absolute garbage. Okay, it's bad. It's just bad. Another small thing that bothered me is that like sometimes like let's say you walk into somebody's house and you steal something like an item from their house, even if they're not in the house and they don't see you. I've encountered twice where I took something out of their house and they just automatically knew I did and started shooting at me. I don't like that type of stuff. I called that out in a recent game. I forgot which game it was. That when you do something, it was Tomb Raider. Like I said in Tomb Raider, I'm keeping that same energy. We should be past faulty AI in games in which when you do something, the programming activates something in the AI's mind to let them know what you did, even though they're not there. That's complete bullshit and nonsense. We got to get past that in gaming. So that's another thing that kind of annoyed me. But like I said, the major problem is just the movement is a nuisance and the hindrance. It's a major hindrance. Like the biggest obstacle, the biggest enemy in Red Dead is not anybody you're shooting at. It's the controls. It's the movement. That would get me killed way more than anybody shooting at me in this game. And that's a fact. It's just bad. And anybody who denies it, you're delusional. Okay? It's just bad. Like, it's okay for us to praise every other part of the game and say the movement is trash, because it is. But apart from that, the visuals, the physics, animations, and visuals are amazing. I feel like the animations sometimes can tie into the bad movement. And I like the comprehensive and thorough animations, but sometimes it's like I feel like they're doing a little bit too much as far as the speed of the animations. Like, for example, if you're in a gunfight and you need to move into cover or you need to loot a body, oh my god, it literally takes a day and a half. I'm not saying it should like be skipping animations and it shouldn't be fluid and thorough, but like, can we add a little bit of, I don't know, some urgency to this shit? You get what I'm saying? It just that bothers me sometimes also. But like I said, the physics, animations, visuals are, this is probably the most beautiful open world we've seen to date. The textures, depth of field, lighting, shadows, gorgeous. This all makes the presentation beautiful. The PS4 we know is not running at native 4K. It's checkerboarded. The Xbox One X, that's native 4K. Both are 30 frames. The PS4 is running at some funky resolution. It's above 1440p, I believe, when I checked, but below actual 4K. So it's some funky resolution in between that, and the rest is checkerboarded. But those are my first impressions. I'm enjoying the game. I think everything about this game is pretty much great, besides the movement, as I said. And sometimes I feel like the inventory system, there's like so much. I'm still adjusting to traversing through the inventory system, because there could be just so much that you want to get to something, and it may be because I'm so early in the game. I'm like, okay, where is this thing at? How do I get here? That sort of thing. But that might just take some time for me to adjust. But yeah, so far those are my first impressions. Let me know what you think about the things I've said. Make sure you hit the like button and hit the notification bell so you can know anytime that I upload a video or I'm live streaming. Thank you all for watching. I'm out of here. Peace.